no, take it back on. You're live on camera. Focus, look around what's going on. Okay? I guess I can record this one. You don't have to record. No, you don't have to. Okay.
Tonight is Teacher Appreciation Day, a night in which we celebrate all our fine educators and how they have impacted our daughters' lives.
Read the drinks up on the whole time. So, you don't have to have top and bottom. So you can zoom in on them in the future. Okay.
All right, I think we're ready. So without further ado, first up and out of the box, Mrs. Onushku. Mrs. Onushku was nominated by #1 Veronica Hubbard from Park Center High School. She was nominated because she is incredibly kind, patient, funny, and caring. She cares deeply about the success of her students, but also about them personally. She's passionate about her job and does it well. And I couldn't be more thankful for her in the past 2 years as she has taught me everything I know. Next up from Osseo Senior High, we have Ms. Check. Ms. Check was nominated by #2 Kari Spitzenberger and #22 Ashlyn Hoffman. Ms. Check was nominated by Kari because Ms. Check has continued to provide a safe and comforting classroom and community space for her. She has continued to help me develop and grow as a student of hers and as a person. Ashlyn nominated Ms. Check because she's one of her favorite teachers. Thank you, Ms. Check. Next up, from Osseo Senior High, we have Ms. Getz. Ms. Getz was nominated by Nora Arneson. Nora nominated Ms. Getz because Ms. Getz always manages to make math interesting. Well, math is interesting, Nora, which is a pretty hard thing to do. She is always entertaining the class with some new story about her crazy freshmen or yelling at the boys at the back of the class. I never have to worry about not understanding anything because Ms. Getz always is there ready to answer any question I might have. And I have a lot. But she never makes me feel silly for not getting anything. She's so supportive and makes me feel so much smarter than I probably am. And I'm so grateful that she's my teacher. Thank you, Ms. Getz. And next up we have Ms. Michaels from Totino Grace. Mrs. Michaels was nominated by Chloe Hubert and Maddie Smuck. Chloe nominated Mrs. Michaels because she is an easy person to talk to whenever you need help, or even just someone to talk to. She is also one of the most caring people I've ever met. She makes learning fun and enjoyable. She has really helped me become a harder worker by challenging me every day and putting me outside of my comfort zone. She was nominated by Maddie because she is the nicest teacher ever and is also so sweet. Her class is my favorite, and she is so fun to talk with. Thank you, Mrs. Michaels. And then we have Ms. Evenhouse from Maranatha Christian Academy. Ms. Evenhouse was nominated by Kendall Kapp. Kendall says, I am nominating my math teacher because she not only teaches me math, but cares about me as a person. Thank you, Ms. Evenhouse. And next up we have Mrs. Larson from Maranatha Christian Academy. Mrs. Larson was nominated by Lillian Huna.
Now they're catching up.
Lillian says about Mrs. Larson, ever since the 9th grade, English, she's been one of my favorite teachers. I always have a blast in her class, and not only is she my teacher, but also a friend. I can go to her whenever I struggle or need any help, and she'll be there. Definitely a big supporter of mine. Thank you, Mrs. Larson. And next up from Osseo Senior High, we have Ms. Tooley. Ms. Tooley was nominated by our own Macy Patton. Macy nominated Ms. Tooley because she chose Ms. Tooley because she always makes learning fun and engaging. She creates an environment where all students feel comfortable and supported. Thank you, Ms. Tooley. And next up we have Ms. Heifert from Osseo Senior High. Ms. Heifert was nominated by Gabby Edlin and Allie Olson. I'm sorry, my sheet is out of order. We have Mr. Stengler from St. Odelia. Mr. Stengler was nominated by number 11, Riley Wacker. Mr. Stengler was nominated because he's always willing to help me when I don't understand something. He is also very funny, which makes his classes really fun. Thank you, Mr. Stengler. And next up, we have Ms. Heifert. For real this time. Ms. Heifert is from Osseo Senior High and was nominated by both Gabby Edlund and, now we have Allie, hold on. Oh, we're gonna do it at Allie's position. Okay, sorry. We have Mrs. Haas from Totino Grace. Mrs. Haas was nominated by Maya Anderson. Mrs. Haas is one of the most outgoing and supportive teachers I have ever had. She is always asking questions and never fails to make people laugh. She makes school so much more enjoyable, and I want to thank her so much for that. Thank you, Mrs. Haas. And next up we have Mrs. Clowder. Ms. Clauder is from Legacy Christian Academy and was nominated by number 13, Grace Stoika. Grace nominated her because she always makes me feel important and we always have great conversations together. Thank you, Mrs. Clauder. And next we have Ms. Cow from Osseo Senior High. Ms. Cow was nominated by Lauren Rainerson. Lauren nominated Ms. Cow because Ms. Cow is someone I can go to for anything. She is very good at giving advice and she is always there to listen to me. I love helping her out around the classroom, especially helping her hang up her Christmas decorations. And I always look forward to 4th hour with her. Thank you, Ms. Cow. And next up we have Ms. Jordan from Totino Grace. Ms. Jordan was nominated by Danielle Sarch. Danielle nominated Ms. Jordan because Ms. Jordan is so funny and nice. She is always there for me, and she always has a smile on her face. Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Next up we have Mrs. Waller from Osseo Senior High. No, we do not. That is not Mrs. Waller. We have Mr. Matthews from Maranatha Christian Academy, nominated by Emma Greenwood. Emma nominated Mr. Matthews because Mr. Matthews is the kindest teacher you will ever meet. He puts in all his time to teach our theater class and show people that it's okay to break out of your shells and be ourselves. Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Next up we have Ms. Bolt from Osseo Senior High. Ms. Bolt was nominated by Lucy Christnagle. Lucy nominated Ms. Bolt because she is one of the kindest teachers I have ever met and is always helping me understand things. Thank you, Ms. Bolt. Next up we have Mrs. Eichten. Mrs. Eichten is from Osseo Senior High and was nominated by Hannah Nielsen. Hannah nominated Mrs. Eichten because Mrs. Eichten is very kind, caring, and funny. She makes AP Bio fun and easier to understand. Overall, the energy in her classroom is amazing. Thank you, Mrs. Eichten. Next we have Mr. Metzel. Mr. Metzel is from Totino Grace High School and was nominated by Andrea Jess. Andrea nominated Mr. Metzel because Mr. Metzel is such a kind person and is great at his job as he engages with students and makes you feel heard. Next up we have Ms. Nelson from Osseo Senior High. Ms. Nelson was nominated by Sydney Mertis. Sydney nominated Ms. Nelson because she makes class so much fun and makes me feel welcome. Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Next up, nominated by Ellie Grant and Libby Prokop, we have Mr. Siren. Mr. Siren was nominated by Ellie because Garfi helps with our summer speed and strength and pushes us to better ourselves in our sports. Garfi is fun to talk to in the halls or cafeteria during lunch. Whenever I feel like I need a mood change, I can always go talk to him. And he says something funny like, that lady is his favorite sister to turn my mood around. And from Vivi says, I've known Garfi ever since I was in 8th grade. He never fails to make me laugh, and he always makes sure I'm doing the right thing. Thank you, Mr. Siren. Next up we have Mrs. Miller from Totino Grace, Mrs. Weimiller was nominated by Andrea Crum. Andrea nominated Mrs. Weimiller because Mrs. Weimiller is such a warm person and she truly wants to get to know me. And she made Spanish class enjoyable for everyone. And she wants to have a bond with every single one of her students. Her room is always welcome to everyone, and I love to go talk to her during my open period and catch up with her. Muchas gracias, Mrs. Weimiller. Next up, we have Ms. Merritt from Oakview Elementary. Ms. Merritt was nominated by Maddie Olson. Maddie nominated Ms. Merritt because Ms. Merritt was the teacher who flipped the switch in my attitude about reading. I came into her class, put at the second lowest reading level, and left at the highest. She also was the first person who actively encouraged me to write and share my stories. I now want to be a movie director and a book author for my profession after high school. Thank you, Ms. Merritt, for helping me figure out my greatest passion. Thank you, Ms. Merritt. Next up is Shelley Berthune. Shelley was nominated by Ella Berthune. Ella says, I nominated this teacher because in addition to being my mom, she was my second grade teacher. She has been a great role model in school and beyond. My mom taught me how to read, how to pray, and how to be a great person. I also want to honor Zoe's Choice, my Uncle Dan, who has been a great Latin teacher, and my hockey and softball coach during my high school years. Thank you, Shelley. Next up, we have Mrs. Bernard from Totino Grace. Mrs. Bernard was nominated by Taylor Holterhouse. She is not present tonight, unfortunately, but Taylor wanted us to know that she nominated Mrs. Bernard because she is super nice and helps me get better at understanding the material we are learning. Thank you, Mrs. Bernard. Then we have number 30, Mrs. Heifert. Mrs. Heifert was nominated by Gabby Edlund and Allie Olson. Gabby nominated Mrs. Heifert because she is always willing to help me with my schoolwork, and she helps me to stay on track and is always there for me if I'm having a bad day or just need a rant. Allie nominated Mrs. Heifert because she cares so much about all of her students and makes everyone feel valued. She has always given me a safe space to help me whenever I need. Thank you, Mrs. Heifert. Then we have Mrs. Smith from Totino Grace High School. Mrs. Smith was nominated by Annika Gustafson. Annika nominated Mrs. Smith because she is so kind and fun to have as a teacher and is always creating new and fun activities for us to do in class. I am always excited to go to her class and love having her for English.
We're on 31 right now.
Next up we have Mrs. Glenn from Totino Grace High School. Mrs. Glenn was nominated by Kyle Katzmark. Mrs. Glenn always has a smile on her face and is willing to help me with my math. I always stay after class to talk to her. And thank you for always making me smile. Thank you, Mrs. Glenn.
I got one of those. I got some stuff down there too for you. Okay. You can sit down there by the TV. Kind of browse the papers. Just me. Yeah, I think it's just you. I have another one in case.
Oh, there we go. I was looking for number 34. There we go. Next up, we have Mr. Berthune from St. Agnes. Mr. Berthune was nominated by Zoe. Also Ella. Ella said he was her hockey coach for 3 years, softball coach for 3 years, and Latin teacher for 1, and the best uncle ever. Zoe says, I love having my dad as a teacher. He's always super excited and energetic about teaching. Thank you, Mr. Berthune.
Okay.
Next up, we have Mrs. Kroll from Osseo Senior High. Mrs. Kroll was nominated by Cara Winter. Cara says she is very supportive of me and her class has always been a safe space. Thank you, Mrs. Kroll. And next up we have Mr. Farrell. Mr. Farrell is from Osseo Senior High and was nominated by Lily Sartwell. Lily says, Mr. Farrell made me look forward to going to Human Geo. He's nice and funny and overall a great guy. He's been one of my favorite teachers in high school so far and deserves this nomination. Thank you, Mr. Farrell. And last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Rezitis. Sorry about that. Mr. Rezitis was nominated by Victoria Welch from the Legacy Christian Academy. Victoria says I nominated Mr. Rezitis because he has been very supportive of my hockey playing and has always had a wonderful way of connecting with his students, and I appreciate his positive attitude and encouragement. Ladies and gentlemen, one last time, thank you to all of our fine educators here this evening.
Tell that she really cares about the success of her students, but also she cares about them personally, and I couldn't be more thankful to have someone teach me these past 2 years.
I nominated Miss Check because she has continued to provide a safe and comforting classroom and community space for me. She's continued to help me grow as a student of hers and as a person.
I chose Miss Getz because she somehow manages to make math fun, which is a very hard thing to do. She's always entertaining the class, whether it be yelling at the guys at the back of the class or entertaining us with some crazy story about her freshmen. She always makes sure that I understand everything in math, which is kind of hard for me. She's always there if I have any questions, but she never really makes me feel dumb for not knowing anything. She's super supportive and makes me feel so much smarter than I probably am, and I'm so grateful to have her as my teacher.
I chose Miss Michaels because she's a really easy person to talk to whenever you need help or just somebody to talk to.
I nominated Mrs. Evenhouse because she not only teaches me math, but she also cares about me as a person.
Ever since 9th grade English, Miss Larson has been one of my favorite teachers. I always have such a blast in her classes, and she is someone that can help me whenever I need to be helped or struggle with anything. She's definitely one of my biggest supporters.
Hi, I'm Macy, and I nominated Miss Tooley because she makes learning fun and engaging, and she creates an environment where students feel comfortable and supported.
I picked Miss Heifert because she's always willing to help me with my schoolwork and always keeping me on track, and she's always there if I'm having a bad day or just needing to rant. Thank you, Miss Heifert.
I chose Miss Michaels because she is so sweet and she is always there to talk to.
Mr. Stangler is always willing to help me during class, and he's super kind and always makes class fun.
I chose Miss Haas because she is so supportive and she makes going to school so much more enjoyable.
I chose Miss Cow because her room is always very welcoming and she's a kind person, and I was her student aide and we did a lot of fun stuff together. We set up winter decorations and yeah.
I chose Miss Jordan because she is super kind and caring of me. She also has a smile on her face all the time.
I chose Miss Waller because she's always there for her students and she's always helpful in the classroom.
I chose Mr. Matthews for my teacher appreciation because he's really kind and he taught me to be myself no matter what.
I chose Miss Bolt because she's always kind to me and is one of my favorite teachers I have ever met.
I chose Matzel because he is super kind and always makes you feel heard and understood.
I chose Miss Nelson because she's so welcoming and she makes learning enjoyable.
I chose Miss Check because she's always welcoming and supportive of her students. She has helped me make some decisions about classes, and she's always asking about how you're doing and how was your day.
Varfi helps with our summer student strength program, and he always helps us to push us better in our sports. I can always talk to Varfi in the hallways or the cafeteria during lunch, and he's always fun to talk to. You know, if I ever need a mood change, I can go up to him and he can say something funny like Maggie is his favorite sister to make me feel better. Thanks, Varfi.
My name's Bill Lindquist, and I'm nominating Mr. Mansky because he's just has a lot of energy and he always supports me.
I chose Miss Weemiller because she's a really fun teacher and she makes Spanish very enjoyable, and just the connection she has with her students is something special, and I just love talking to her.
I chose Miss Marriott because she was the first one who really encouraged my reading and writing dreams. She really flipped the script for me when it came to reading. I didn't like it before her, but now I want to be a movie director and an author when I grow up. So thank you.
The year I had him, Mr. B helped me understand Latin with his passion and expertise. The years I had him for softball and hockey, he helped me develop and got me to where I am today. He is also the best uncle ever. Thank you.
I chose Miss Bernard because she is super nice and always helps me better understand the material we are learning.
I chose Miss Waller because she makes everyone feel comfortable, safe, and welcome in her classroom. She truly cares about her students and has created a positive environment for all. She's very kind to me, and I love chatting it up with her while I do my work.
I chose Mrs. Smith because she's very kind and is always creating new and fun activities for us to do in class. I love going to her class and love having her for English.
I'm choosing Miss Glenn because she always has a smile on her face and is always willing to help me with my math. She always gives me advice on what to do.
I've known Varfi since I was in 8th grade. He never fails to make me laugh and always makes sure I'm doing the right thing.
I really love having my dad as a teacher. He's super energetic and enthusiastic when he teaches, and he makes class so much fun. Everyone loves his class, and I'm just so blessed to be able to be with him every day.
I chose Miss Kroll because she's always been very kind and supportive of me, and her classroom has always been a safe space to go to.
I chose Mr. Farrell because he makes me look forward to Human Geo, and he is nice and kind and funny, and overall he deserves this nomination, and he is one of my favorite teachers I had in high school.
I chose Mr. Rosita because he's been very supportive of me playing hockey.